Excel spreadsheet for you because the computer's dead, allegedly, from Ryan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a much more low-tech version of it. Okay, I'm going to use the TI to do this. And you're going to do this, if not today, we'll do it on Wednesday. I'm going to generate 200 ones and twos. Now what this is, it's the TI generating random ones and random twos. Random ones and random twos. When I press enter, it's going to be a string of ones and twos. Here we go. What should one be? Heads or tails? Doesn't matter to me. Heads. One is heads. There we go. There. Thinking about it. Takes a little bit. Okay. Holy hell. Heads, 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 heads. There's a tail. There's a tail. You see what's happening? Here, I'll do it again. Here, I'll do it again. Now keep watching. See, a lot more threes this time. Not quite that crazy string, but keep watching. This is why I wish the Excel sheet shows you all 200 at once, and it's got them color-coded with H's and T's. It's very pretty. I'll show you. We'll do it on Wednesday. When I don't give my room to Doug, you can't have my room Wednesday. So, the fact that it was biased, of course, was a cute observation. Very, very adorable. But the problem is that it's not biased. It's not biased. It's predictable. It's predictable. You should expect those kinds of runs when you look at a long string. And it's hard for human beings to get that wrapped around their minds. And here's why. Or here's an example. Here's not why. Here's an example. I got an email from a former student on the beach of Spain listening to her iPod. Email came in one. This is about 9 months ago. She's like, Rule, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, I can't wait to hear what I'm not going to believe. Yeah. She was playing her iPod on shuffle. And it came up with a pattern. It was like, band A, band B, band C. Band A, band B, band C. Band A, band B, band C. And she was like, oh my God, what are the chances? And I said, pretty good, probably. I said, pretty good, probably. She's like, what do you mean, pretty good, probably? I'm like, let me ask a question. Had you just created that brand new playlist? Well, first of all, how many songs were in the playlist? She's like, I was like 2,000, 3,000. I'm like, okay. And had you just created that playlist right before you pressed play and got ABC, ABC, ABC? She's like, oh God, I've listened to this thing for months now. She's listened to this thing for months now. What's bound to happen somewhere in there?
The chances of that happening.
The chances of a clump happening in some seemingly predictable way, but it's not predictable because you don't know when it's going to happen. How many of you thought all those heads were going to come up on the first run when I hit enter? I was going to guess they were somewhere down lower, and this is why I wish the Excel sheet was up because you'd actually see them all together. But the fact they came out in the beginning surprised me too. But nobody says it can't. You don't know when it's going to clump, you just know that it is. And that's why it's so funny to watch the little old lady with the one-armed bandit. Leave her alone. Don't wait till she gets up and knock her off her stool to take her machine. You never know when that hit is going to happen. You don't know when that hit is going to happen. But you can, in looking at a random series of events, determine if a process is random or not. So you can't predict the future, but you can look back at the past and say, ooh, that's not as random as it should be. And this is what casino owners have to do all the time to make sure their games are paying out fairly. And when they say fairly, they mean in their favor. I mean, they have the payouts set. They have the payouts set. Like, we're going to analyze craps in the last couple weeks of this class, and they have the payouts set to make sure that you guys are always paying them over time. But the payouts are only part of it. You ever notice how often they change out the dice in the casino? Or the cards? Yeah, they're constantly changing the dice out and the cards out. Yeah. Why? To keep them at 50-50 and 1 in 6 and 1 in 4. They got to keep that. Because those payouts that they're expecting are guaranteed so long as the probabilities stay consistent. Within margins of error, of course, but if they get too far from that. There was a scene in the movie Casino where I think De Niro fires his brother-in-law or someone that's working for him because he lets the machines get too far out of whack. Am I getting my shows confused? I could be. There's a film called Casino. Robert De Niro is a casino owner. Sharon Stone's in there. Somebody else is in there too. Somebody else famous. But there's wonderful probability nods in that film. And I'm pretty sure, is it Pesci? I'm thinking of Goodfellas now. It could be Pesci. Might as well. Let's make it Joe Pesci. I love that guy. Christopher Walken too. He's wonderful. But he fires his brother-in-law because his brother-in-law isn't paying close enough attention to the machinery, and they're paying out too much. You've heard the phrase loose slots? It's absolute hoo-ha. They will never allow the slots to become loose. Hey, you've seen the billboard on 97.
We've seen one broke before that was just like paying out everybody.
And like they were like rounds for everybody in the bar. Like it just like it was the Wall Street one night.
Oh, one of those little Keno machines or something like that. Oh, those things run by the state, dude. I wouldn't be surprised if those things are all broken. No, I'm talking about individual casinos. They know. I see what you're. I was so surprised. I'm like, there's no way like Kanita is letting that happen. Like broken. The idea is if those things get out of whack even a little tiny bit. Here's what we just calculated in Math 243, and we're going to calculate this again in the next couple weeks of our class. We actually analyze craps. Every time you spin a roulette wheel and you bet $1. Vegas makes on you just more than half of that $1. So in other words, it's like you walking up to the table and giving them $1. If it were even odds, you'd get 50 cents back, you'd both walk with 50 and call it a day. And it would pay out roughly half the time. But it's not that, it's slightly over that. That's how tightly some of these games are controlled. If they are allowed to get even a little bit out of whack, that can shift to positive for the player. If the players figure that out, they clean up. Now I'm talking about games of chance. I'm not talking about games of skill like poker and blackjack, when you have to know something about when to stay, when to stop, when to walk out. I'm talking about pure games of chance, roulette, craps, games like that. Does that make sense? Please.
Come to Vegas with me.
No. Well, yeah. If we go climbing, and if you pick a game, and I'll guarantee you how long you have, plus or minus, until you run out of money.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin the experience. I can't count cards. That makes me the crappy day to take to Vegas. But there's other stuff to do in Vegas besides gamble, like laugh at the gamblers. Anyway, I'm the climbing. There's plenty of stuff to do in Vegas. You have to ask yourself how the hell they can keep a city in the middle of the desert with the fountains of Bellagio and lights on 24/7. You have to ask yourself that. How? You and I. That's how. We give them money. Now you gotta view it as entertainment. You gotta view it as entertainment, right? I happily went to the movies to watch Life of Pi 5 times on a big screen. Happily. My favorite book of all time, and I said, I hope they never make it a movie. I hope they never make it a movie because they're gonna screw it up. And then Ang Lee makes a movie out of it, and it brings me to tears every time I watch it. And I went back 4 times more after I saw it the first time.
They messed up the end though.
Easy. They didn't do as good a job as the book. But it's still damn good.
Okay.
Still got me to chuckle. Still got me to chuckle during the interview, yeah? But the idea is it's entertainment. I happily forked over, what, 15, 16 bucks to go watch that thing multiple times. Just like you happily fork over the ante when you go to Vegas to gamble, because it's entertainment. Just realize that you're not walking out of there with more than you walked in with. You have to accept that. If you accept that, Vegas is much more pleasant. Put the money in one pocket. Whatever money you're willing to sacrifice, put it in one pocket. When that pocket's empty, leave. If you win money, put it in this pocket. Then you're like, holy hell, I can buy a pizza.
It's discipline.
Or I can buy a piece of pizza. Or I can steal a piece of pizza. But it is discipline. It's knowing what's going to happen. But the thing is, knowing what's going to happen doesn't tell you what's going to happen on the next roll. It just tells you what's going to happen in the whole of rolls. So that's what I want to do now is I want to look at some experimental results. Take your coin. I want to do 2 experiments with the coin. I want to do 2 experiments with the coin. The first experiment